Warning, warning, warning. This discussion may not be suitable for people who do not want to hear about graphic depictions of sexual exploration, consent, common problematic tropes, trauma entertainment, power imbalances, framing dynamics, and cultural norms that deal with very problematic, very controversial subjects like sex slavery, sexual exploration, genital mutilation, sexual trauma, and things of the like. Again, if this is not your cup of tea, feel free to leave, and I won't hold that against you. Having said that, let us have a very frank, well, let me just have a very just, this topic is just not a pleasant one. At least the stuff that I'm gonna talk about. So recently, I decided that I was gonna read this book by Jacqueline Carey called Cushill's Dart. I'm sorry if I mispronounce the author's name or the book's title, or both. My apologies. And my apologies for any mispronunciations during this discourse. Well, I wish there was a warning. It's like sometimes you're just like you're not prepared, and I was not fully prepared for this book. Just like, and I will, okay, so things, let me at least like just some of these things for certain people who read, like, dark romance, and I considered most of the majority of these books that are considered to be romance, defined as romance in the romance genre, are, in my view, going to be considered dark romance, or let's just say controversial, if you're not familiar with dark romance. Having said that, let me list the books that I find to be within this trope, and why I find there's certain things that are like problematic within each trope. First, I'm gonna list off like the authors and the books that have things that have very highly problematic and things that would be triggering to some people. So I know I did the disclaimer before the video, but I still want to give people an option to be like, whoa, I didn't know that, beforehand. So here we go. Ruby Dixon. First, I'm gonna list the author, then all the books that have content that I feel that is just, it's gonna go from ooh, this is just heavy to, and all these books are heavy, like in some way, but I'm talking about like in terms of the explicit nature of how they describe the events that are happening or whatever. And like, if it's smut, I'll say, like, if it's smut or it's on the romance side or whatever, so you'll know ahead of time as I'm listening this up, when I'm talking about this, that it'll be like, oh, maybe I don't want to hear about this. Okay. So first off, we have Ruby Dixon, and in general I'll be talking about like the Aspect and Anchor series, but just one book in particular that I really think stands out is The Servant of Spinday, whatever you call it. The Corsair's Captive. It's another title. Another title is Enticed by the Corsair. Another series, which I've read heavily, When She Purrs, When She's Ready. Like, it's just like I read like the majority of all those books. I have not touched upon the Barbarian series, but I believe that some of these books features, like they harken back to events that are like happening. Like they're like, oh, it has some connection. Some like especially with when she insert blank series, Enticed by the Corsair, The Corsair's Captive. I mean, maybe they're not in the same world, but they have like the same vibe. I don't know. I haven't read the Barbarian series, but I'm just making like, a quick observation. I may be wrong. Jacqueline Carey Cushell's Dart. Urhati Roy, The God of Small Things. Waris Jerry, Desert Flower. Paulo Coelho, 11 Minutes. So there's only 2 books on this list that I haven't read that I just couldn't stomach, and that's the Cushell's Dart and The God of Small Things, which I will discuss later on. So I find that these are the most like very triggering, if that's the word. I can't really generally specify what would be, triggering to somebody who will listen to us. I could just do my best, but I will have like a brief summary of the events, so you could be like, not for me. For me, it's your choice. The rest of the books that I will briefly be discussing are like just themes in the books that I found to be problematic that I recently read or have read years ago will be Daniel L. Jensen, A Fate Inked in Blood, His Dark Materials, specifically the last book, The Amber Spyglass, Junot Diaz, The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde, Paulo Coelho's 11 Minutes. Yeah. So let's kick off this discussion, or that I'm having, I don't even know. It's just, is it a discussion? Is it an observation? Is it a condemnation? I don't know. I'm just having so many thoughts. So the reason why I wanted to discuss certain things like sex, sexual exploration, consent, what is consent, common problematic tropes, trauma entertainment, age, framing dynamics, power imbalance, cultural norms, freedom of expression, like thought police and who should be the thought police, men and versus women's point of view, is mainly because Kushal start. So the whole, I don't know about the premise of the book because I stopped reading early on, but to me it was just disturbing enough to be like, okay, not for me. And I will discuss like certain things that I didn't really find disturbing, but just the parts that, like, just the specific parts that I found disturbing. So in itself, like, Phaedra or whatever her name is, she's in this world, an unkind world, and you know, especially fantasies, it's like this common fantasy trope, like, you know, medieval fantasy or just books set in, like, you know, not modern times or whatever, is that I live a hard life. I like, it's just like things after things after things happen to the main character, and life is just, sometimes life is just the way it is, and you know, most of the time it's just not gonna be like, you know, peaches and roses, like, type feel. Like, you know, if you know, you know, if you read fantasy, like, I haven't, like, I can't say like I'm a hard reader of fantasy, but it's just overwhelmingly a trope in fantasy where the it's hard for the main character, you know, in fantasy tropes, where it's just like, it's hard, you don't know about hard, I lived hard. And it's just like, that character is like, I am, my middle name is Perseverance, like that type of vibe. So the book is like framed through that narrative, that it's like, it's hard. So anyways, so after her hard upbringing, and it's not even like, when I stopped reading the book, she's only 7. Let me get that clear. She's only 7. So in this world, like, there's like this weird, it's like this weird parallel universe of, like, just picture like Christianity, a combination of like Jesus and like fucking Buddha ish, demigod or God. I don't know, it's not really quite clear like what he is, but he's just a divine. He's divine. It's called Eula. He's called Eula. Eula is spelled Eula. If I'm mispronouncing it, oh well. I'm trying. That's what I'm saying. Oh well. If it don't work, it don't work. So Eula is like, he's, for whatever reason, all these, like, there, all these society, like, I guess if you go throughout the book, like, there's just different gods that people gravitate to, but in this specific reason, where the book is, like, the main character's religion is focused on Eula or whatever, and then Eula is like this person who can't catch a break because life's hard, even for a god. And it's like, this person hasn't done anything. It's just people just don't like him, and they just, I don't know, he spreads flowers and love everywhere he goes, and he always catching ops. I don't know that's it. Like, it's not that deep, but whatever. So they have this whole religion around Eula, the benevolent one. It's like, it's like weird, because it's like they Eula keep talking about it, but it's like actually like they praise Nama or Nahama or whatever, however you I don't remember how to spell her name, but Namahama, whatever. And she's like his sister who came down and basically was the first in this world, the very first prostitute. She gave up her body to save her brother. And every time the brother is in trouble, like she gotta like have sex. Like the dynamic is just pretty fucking weird and just off-putting, honestly, because it's like oh, sex is the sexual like it's not like sex is holy. It's like sex as a job, like an actual 9 to 5 job, and like commerce and like sex slavery is a noble act. Let's just make the distinction clear. It's not like, oh, the like just sex is a divine body, the act of creation or whatever. No, in this book is making it pretty very clear that sexual slavery and sexual, like using sexual as a profession, like and just being used in that way since birth is like not like having sex since like at birth, but just using sex slavery, like and it's like they go through like this like mental gymnastics where it's like it's not sexual slave, but it's like the how we introduced to the character is her mom. It's like just so it's like inconsistent is what I'm saying. Is very inconsistent with the narratives that it's trying to say, because on one end it's saying that sex is part of the divine, the divine awakening, that we get to be in touch with not only Namaya but Eula, and we get to share our bodies and what we do in our profession, not sexual slavery. That's how they frame this device. Is that it's the work of the divine. But tell me why when we meet the main character, she's sold. Like she's and they call these sex traders or like whatever, houses or whatever. And on one end the author goes through so much care to say that her mother sold her to one of these houses, these divine houses that practices sex as a divine. And I'm just like, how can there not be a like, where is the misinterpretation of this? Like how is it that if it's a profession that these people can't decide when they're of age to go into this profession, to choose to be at this lifestyle, why is it at any point that anybody, and her mom was born, all these people are like, okay, and that's another dynamic, is that all these people within these regions from these houses, these sexual whatever, this sexual trade, sexual slavery, whatever you want to frame and device you want to use it, is born into like these societies, or so they don't have any. So in their thinking, and I don't even understand, like, I just, in their thinking, what they do is commonplace and divine, or yes, there's no sex shame or whatever. It's very, and they keep saying, oh, sex positive, and it's like, but it's like, if it's the work of the divine, and you then it would mean like no reason to like sell these people for sex, right? Like if it's like, divine. There would be no reason to have like a baby, like parents, like a whole society raise up. Like it's just to me like a device for having like no limitations on the age of consent when with like sexual with like in regards to sex. Like it just seems like it's just a device to just be like, well, because we're just so we love sex. Well, sex is divine. The exploration of sex is so divine that anything and everything within the confines of sex, no matter what the age is divine. And I just feel like that's just such a, and I don't find that it's supposed is a slippery like trope for me. It's just like wrong for me. Cause it's just nah, like no, like no, like no. I don't understand why seeing this young like this babe, she no young woman, she a babe, she only 7 by the time when I started, and then it just is saying is being sold into an industry that's saying that it's the divine. If it's divine, why are you being sold? Like, why is your mom tearfully selling you to a house that is also practicing like this divine art? Like, why is she selling you out for into slave work? If this practice, like, if it's so wrong, like, why is that passage like you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like the author in itself wants to depict the dichotomy of like this world, but I feel like it's just also embraces it and also kind of like celebrates like just certain icks of the world. Like I understand that there's like this point of like, oh, you want to have people comfortable with their body at a young age, and that you want to have them naturally come into their own and their sexual exploration without, you know, feeling coerced or just like your natural flow of things. But the way the author normalizes like this character's journey of just in this divine world of like, oh, there's no limits on sex, which the framing of that is just fucking wild. It's fucking wild. Why should there be any limitations of sex? You born into a sex, and it's just like as if it was a job, when it's like there are people, and it makes no, it's like you are literally saying that these people are being sold to men for sex, and yet you're still framing this as like some divine divine profession, divine pilgrimage, like just some like you just like the framing this with like divinity is just wild. The fact that this everything about hearing about like this child of 7-year-olds being prepped for sex, like not, and it's like, oh, some people are like, well, she's not having sex and she doesn't have sex till later on, but it's like, just brother, no, I'm gonna get a hard pass. And that's why I couldn't fit, and that just brings in like a bigger picture of why exactly did this book have such a triggering effect on for me in regards to like age of consent, sexual exploration, just the not like just the sex, like the men and women's role, the sex, like oh, what's the limitation of freedom of expression, cultural norms? Like, what about this book is just, and it really brought into like a deeper perspective of the type of books that I have read when I was an adolescent up to now, and how that framed my understanding and acceptance of problematic tropes like these, and just saying like, oh, it's okay. I'm not saying, oh, censor, censor, censor. That is not what I'm saying. I am not saying that this author is pushing pedo vibes or anything like that. Like, that is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that overall, especially in the romance or in a drama or just in the fictional book space, there seems to be like a lack of nuance or a lack of care when dealing with, like, these problematic themes in regards to sex slavery, sex work, consensual sex work, what I like to call trauma entertainment, where it's just be like, oh, they're traumatized, oh, I'm titillating. The titillation is really like the titillation of like trauma, but using it as a form of entertainment. Like the framing devices where it's like they make it like seductive or just not like just casual in the appearance of like dealing with trauma or dealing with fucked up themes, that you as the reader just kind of forget, like, this is fucked up. Like, I should be fucked up about this. There's no, for me, I should feel icky. You should feel icky about this child. She was just gonna be a sex slave either way. If she stayed with her mom would have been like, oh, I willingly offer you up to a house until you're the age of like boning, which could be like 13 or 10 or whatever. And it doesn't matter if you choose to decide. You live in a society where you, as a woman or a man, in this book could be man or a woman, is expected to like be trained in the arts of sex, and your body is like a commodity in this world. Like your body is the divine, and we created like a whole religion to be that like, oh, grooming is okay, and pedophilia is like, nah, no. So, and okay, aside from that, that was just a problematic theme. It's like, let me talk about the books that I have read, and since having reframed my perspective and my understanding of like what is okay and what is not okay, that it's like, damn, I've been reading a lot of fucked up material for a while, but I'm going to show you like an example of what is used to like have a deeper, with nuance and with care and depth, and just when it's just titillating, which I feel like both can exist at the same time. But I do feel like we should as a society have a discussion to be like, oh, we agree that this is wrong though, right? Because I feel like the way how some of these people be arguing for like the age of consent, especially at young ages or whatever, and how they're depicted in fiction and how they're depicted in entertainment, that they're just waiting for someone to be like, is it though? Is it wrong? Like, it's just be like, why? Like, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like, okay, having said that, let me also talk about things like that. Whoa, it's just fucked up. Okay, you've been warned. Here goes a very fucked up tale. Okay, so it's time with Ruby Dixon. Ruby Dixon's Enticed by the Corsair. Okay, warning. Explicit, traumatic depictions of abuse incoming. Okay, we ready? Good. So, where do I start? You know, her whole, all of the series that I listed from her is just problematic as hell. But the sex being be popping, and they do give me, they make me a little squirmy. I'm not gonna lie. But this book, woo. So in the Ruby Dixon's world, right? Just let me preface by saying that it deals with, it is sex slavery. It's call it what it is. It is sex slavery. All of it, like not all of it, but majority of it, in some shape or form. Even if the worlds aren't connected, it's like even if these people, like, or maybe whatever it is, the angle that it is that most of the time these people were kidnapped. They were kidnapped by these atrocious, awful aliens who torture, commoditize, like, these women. And it's framed in a way that, I survived. That was just so long ago. I mean, okay. It's like two different narratives if you're reading like Ruby Dixon. It's like it's either I was in a fucked up experiences. I'm trying to deal with my trauma. I know that it was bad that was happened to me. Not all aliens are like this, but the majority of the world just see me as a commodity or whatever. But I am just dealing with my PTSD right now. But somehow I'm falling in love with an alien, a possessive, overbearing alien that is like, oh, we are mated, you are mine, we are just like, and it's just doing all the things that a normal person would have been like, why do you find this like romantic? Like, why is this guy, he coming on your door? Yes, coming. He put semen on your door, like he ejaculated on your door. He's stalking you. He's aggressively, just aggressively stalking you, coming on your door. He threatens violence. These are just some of the things that I've read throughout and these aren't the things that I've listed, but it's just in some way or form, is that it's either they have not even problematic, just wrong, because I'm not gonna mince words or just have a gray area. It's just wrong. Him ejaculating on your door, stalking you, trying, like, buying you in order to free you. That power dynamic that's common in her books, by the way, is that especially the Corsairs series, when she purrs. I don't know about the Barbarian, but I assume that she loves her captor, and they go to Pound Town, and he's not so bad. This is like, that's the framework of if there was like a tagline for Ruby Dixon, he's not that bad type vibe. Like, once you know him, you get to love him. After she lists off all these problematic, like, not just problematic, just wrong. But in the framing of how Ruby Dixon framed it, is like, it's just problematic. And then I think that's a lot of dark romance it's like some of it is clearly wrong. Like it's just all wrong. But the way how they're framed, it's problematic. It's a little problematic. Um, so some form of sex slavery. So you have her either saying going for the abusive, the different manipulation, overly aggressive. All of these dealing with you're my mate, you're my one, we are mated. I don't know what that trope is called, whatever. And then you have in the other one where it's like I don't have much choices, and I'm in a situation where I don't choose to be, I don't want to be, but let me make the best of, like, that's like the aspect in Anchor series, where it's like something happens, all these things, something happens to them, but there's like a different occurrence of how it happens. Like the servant of the Spende, she was a sex worker. I don't remember if like she wanted to be. Doesn't seem like she cared for it or whatever. But my girl's broken. Like she don't know she's broke, but she's like so used to being traumatized and abused that she doesn't, that somehow just being, and then the men abuse her, really, that like the gods. And the whole fucked up thing about this thing is that it's like another form of sex slavery, to be honest, because it's like the gods chose these people, and there's another form of just mated, like you are my mate, like the universe chose me as as you as the one to be to be in servitude, sex slave. I don't know. I think it's interchangeable, but forced servitude to show these gods how to be human. Like, do with that as you will, but it's like they don't have any agency other than, oh, I'm gonna fuck the human into you. Like I'm going to cater to you, I'll love up on you, and just like that's gonna be your introduction into being a human, and you're gonna evolve. The better we fucked is like the more human you'll be, and it's like, okay. But it's just like, it's not as graphic because like in Crucial Darts, because Crucial Dart is like, I stopped because I know it was gonna get fucked. It's just sometimes you start reading a book and then you're like, I've been reading for so long that I can see like certain, like the vibe is off. It's like, oh no, and then I gotta be like, let me see what the reviews are saying about this book, because I'm no. So that's what happened with Kushil's art with the 7. I was like, it's sprinkling fucked up vibes. It's like I'm not no. And yes, it did confirm. So I was like, okay, good. And it's okay. So let's talk about the more fucked up books. Okay, so the other book that I didn't read, we're gonna switch from the things that I found problematic in Ruby Dixon, to another book that I didn't read, but also very, very explicit, like Kushil's Dart. Like I didn't really say the explicit parts that I am mentioning it, but I feel like with this, okay, I didn't say what happened in, like, because it wasn't like very explicit, because it's just a theory. But this one, the God of Small Things, I will have to explain in detail so you can understand, like not in vivid detail, but just enough detail. There is this passage in the book where a young boy is not raped, he gets molested. He gets molested in a theater by somebody, by I don't. It doesn't matter if it's a random or somebody he knows, but he gets molested in a theater, and the author. I don't know. This book is like highly rated, but I just couldn't. It was just too. It was messy, and then another aspect of the reason why I wanted to talk about this scene in particular is because a lot of the framing of these books is like it's the titillation or the nonchalantness of when they actually talk about something that's like fucked up. It's just like and he got sexual assault, like molested in a theater, this little boy. So anyways, and then in Kusho's Dart, she's 7 years old. Like at 4 she got sold into like sex slavery, and at 7 years old she got sold to a man who's gonna teach her how to be a courtesan or a sex worker, but she's not gonna have sex till later on. It's like, what are we talking here? Like, and then with the servant of Spindai, it's like she's so numb and she's so accustomed to like trauma that how these guys treat her like some used up toy. She don't even care. She's like, I got a bed, I have food, and that's all I need. These guys can just, and it's like, you know how when you see a character how like that's some good ass writing, but it's some fucked up writing that it's like, oh, the way how the character, like you expect the character to act some way, this is a fucked up situation, and the fact that there is no reaction, that there's just like a complacency like this is my life now, that is just like fucking triggering, that is like, damn, like this world beat you down so fucking much that the way how these gods are like just using you up and just pretty much abusing you, not like sexual assault. She agrees. It's not like she doesn't give consent, but the fact in which this person is using like their power dynamics, and she knows that the only reason that she is doing it is because she needs, I would think, she needs a house and food, and she's only doing it in this relationship because all these things are provided to her. This like, it creates an equal imbalance that I can't unwrap my head, call it anything other than abuse. Not sorry. And I never even talked about Enticed by Corsair. My bad. It's just like this thing, like every time I think about like the wild ride, the things that I've glossed over, and the things that I've like read, or like, oh, like I've just like, how is the writing so powerful that in that moment I'm not like giving this like the breath like that it deserves. Like it's just like I'm just, oh, the sex, like I'm here for the sex, like that's it, like, you know, I'm here for the titillation, I'm here for that's all I care about. It's like, but now having sit down and thought about it, I'm like, what the fuck. So another casual, this one is like is also very fucked up along the lines of the God of Small Things, in its vivid description of just fucked up things. So warning, something gonna experience something fucked up. So we meet the main character in Enticed by the Corsair. I don't even remember her name. As I do with most of these books, it's like I just remember like the details, but not like the name of the characters or anything. But we meet this character, and she's a sex slave. She's the only surviving sex slave aboard a ship. Yes, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. Warning. And she's locked up in a cage, and it's just filled with rotting bodies. desiccated, rotting bodies of just different um, rates of decay. The guy, she has her eyes brutal, like gouged out, scarred. Her eyes are scarred from being gouged out. That's where her eyes would have been. It's gouged out. Yes, you did hear that correctly. Gouged. She's missing one or two toes. More than one finger. She has scars and mutilation scars across like her body, like her back and whatever. So a lot of things has happened to her while in captivity. The guy who instantly falls in love, and all these stories, like not all, but majority of them, especially by all of Ruby Dixon's books is insta love. In case you didn't know, and majority of like dark romance are just insta love, just like that's what sells. He's like, I can't help, but she's just so beautiful, and I'm just like, I am not saying that somebody, despite their deformities or disabilities or anything that marks them as different in life, cannot be beautiful. I'm just saying that if you see somebody in a cage, someone who is like going through such extreme mental trauma, and you're in your head, you're like, she's so beautiful. It's like, I mean, you could say it's just certain words or certain attitudes that you could have, that you could be like, oh, she's an attractive, you could be more scientific, that just there's an attraction there, and you could just be like, but that's just like innate. I just had an innate human attraction, and that's it. And you could just be like, oh, just casual. But the way how the author is cringe, is very cringe, goes into like how his attraction to her scarred eyes, her scarred sockets is so beautiful to him, and the fact that she survived that is so enticing. It's just fucked up. Like every aspect of her being traumatized is like beautiful, is alluring to him, is fucked up. When she talks about how these things occurred, who she was before that, it's like he's like, I want throughout all he's like, I want to fuck. Like I want to fuck. He's all like, I know she talking about trauma. I know she talking about, I want to fuck. And I'm just like, and don't get me wrong, there's been all the server, I always pause when something, but I just kind of like, maybe briefly, my mind has just like get accustomed to like maybe fucked up things in books, so just gloss them over. But this is like one of the first time I feel like I'm coming out of the fog, and I'm like, what the fuck did I just read? Like, what the fuck? Like, what? It's like, I understand that trauma is real. Like, it done fucked you up, and you are learned, but I want to fuck you so bad. Like, I want to fuck you so bad, but I'm gonna wait. It's like, and then like, yeah. So it's like, yeah, I went on a very deep discovery. So, another graphic, very graphic in vivid detail, but I feel like this book, I am proud to say that maybe because this is her own personal journey, and this is like through her eyes or whatever, that she put the care and attention and the breath that it deserves. But this is the more positive takes on when we talk about framing dynamics, like, oh, power imbalance, cultural norms, freedom, like men versus women's point of view. I don't think it's only like two works that are discussed that are written by men, just so you know. But Waris Dirie, Desert Flower. So I think she's from Sudan. She's from Africa. Most definitely from Africa. I don't want to get the country wrong, but I think it's Sudan. If I'm wrong, I apologize. And she's just basically in Desert Flower. She's just talking about how her experiences coming from a nomadic tribe, being where they practice genital mutilation. Okay, that was a warning. Genital mutilation. Warning. And pretty much like in her warning. Okay. What happened to her was when she was very young, her labias was cut off, and I think it was like sewed up or whatever. I'm not, but generally speaking, I think that's what happened, and that's what happened in most countries with genital mutilation or whatever. Or maybe it wasn't sewn up, but it was definitely cut off or whatever. Mutilation. And she had grown. She became a model. She fell in love. And the way how she's talking about the dynamics of her life and how she meets people, and even how she gets introduced into the modeling world, and how the mutilation came about, and what the complications of that happened later on in life, and how she's like dealing with the understanding that it's wrong, that she was dealing with like, oh, it was right or whatever, and then she was like, oh, this is wrong, this should have never happened to me, this should never happen to anybody. And how she blossomed into like a fully realized woman is like, to me, like the best depictions of like, oh, I have my stance. Like, she clearly says this like, I am not agree with her. Genital mutilation is wrong, so I don't want to get you twisted or whatever, but I feel that it's very poignant that she addresses the fact that everybody's life experiences is different, that I did get into model. I think she went to school for nursing or something. Like, I'm not sure, but I think she transitioned from model into like maybe a medical field or something, or some different field. And no, a different field. I don't know if it's medical school, but a different field. And she's all like, this is my story. This is how I view it. This is my understanding. This is my take. And I just feel like, but the fact that she clearly makes her position known about how she feels about this cultural / societal norms of the expectation of that, even it doesn't matter if the majority of the people find it okay that this is accepted. You don't find it accepted, and it was done to you, and you didn't have a choice in it, and that she's like, that was wrong. I find it to be like courageous, nuanced, like very deep and very like touching, because it's like not everything that's accepted in society, especially with age of consent, is like should be accepted. And I find that it's only like it's usually like in the world, change only happens with like only like this minority, like a minority of people are like speaking out and just saying like, this should not be accepted, you know? And it's like brave people like her that's like, nah, this is, and it's probably still being practiced today, like genital mutilation and such. But it's just that she used her own very personal and often traumatic experiences to discuss something very important, and she made a position. And I just feel like in fiction, do they have is it a requirement for people that to be like, oh, pedophilia is wrong, or have put their political stance or their personal stance in a fiction book? No, it's not a requirement, but I feel like it should have a discussion and it should be nuanced, especially if you're like romanticizing, or you're normalizing, or you're part of the conversation that downplays a serious problem in this world, which is sex slavery, sex coercion, the problems with like very low age of consent, like the problem with like oh, that's how just that the aspect of like, you know, human understanding was like, you know, just hard, life is just hard. And not the fact that it's like, oh, these things that happened to you were wrong. It's just like life is just hard. Like it's just like an acceptance that these things that are doled out to people can't be changed. And I just feel like that's fucked up. The power dynamics within, you know, the expectation that, oh, this person does it because they want to, and not because like, oh, you have some significant power over them, yeah, needs to be addressed. Like the fact that like people gloss over, like they don't label things the way they are. I'm not saying that controversial stuff should be banned. I'm just saying that you should label these things as controversial, and people should have a choice to be like, oh yeah, this deals with such and such, and I don't really want to hear about it. It is controversial. Sex slavery, or the dynamic often used in romance novels of wild age gaps. But oh, this person is hundreds of years, or it doesn't matter if this person is hundreds of years old, or this happens in, this is a fantasy book, so it's okay for them to be 10, 30 years old, or like non-consent. And like, I feel like, yes, we should always have a discussion, and they should always have a side that says, okay, you know, this is fiction, and you also know that this is wrong, right? Whether or not you enjoy it is, I do find like there is a discussion on why you enjoy it, but I don't think that should frame like if they're bad people or not. Some of the, because I think whether you enjoy it or not, people could be bad or good regardless of if they enjoy it or not, and some of them could be pedophiles or not, whether they enjoy it or whether they hate it, because I just feel like that's not important. It's just feel like whether or not we as a society label this correctly as saying, nah, this is fucked up, like this is wrong. So then I'm gonna talk about a scene which is like the exploration of the amber spyglass, where I feel like the author hinted at like some like there are teens or whatever. I don't even remember like the age or whatever, but they're teens, 13, 15, whoever within that age group, whatever. I think they're definitely like with 14, 15 age group, 14, 16, by the Amber Spyglass series or whatever, and they share their kiss. And I don't really think it's like explicit enough to say definitely that they have sex, but I think the girlies, I don't know. At first I interpret it as that they shared a moment and that they did have sex, but it's very in like just ambiguous, like just kind of like, I don't think there's enough evidence to say that they definitely did. I just think like they shared a moment, a tender moment. And I do think that the way how he describes like awakening, like an awakening of desire, of feeling of love or whatever. I thought it was tender and sweet, and I didn't necessarily see it as being problematic. But I think some people, and that's their choice, to say that, oh, I'm not really down for like a description. I mean, this is not like his dark material is. I'm just putting this on the list because it's not on the level of romance or dark romance genre where there's any smut spice or whatever. It's definitely for like adolescents, young adult. You know, it does have deals with darker themes and stuff like that, but I don't find it to be problematic. I just feel like it does add to the questioning of like how much care and understanding that you put into. And I thought it was sweet. I thought it was sweet how they depicted how they grew to love each other and how they explored that love. And I don't think that it was like creepy because he never went into any detail that they had sex. It's just that they had a chast kiss. That was the only explicit detail, that they had a chase kiss, and then she wanted to be like, oh, this desire for him grew. But you know, you gotta read the book. No spoilers. It's a fantastic series. But another aspect of things that I wanted to discuss is like 2 books where it's like or 3 books. So let's talk about the women, and then we'll talk about the men aspect, the way, the framing of like the men, how they would frame it. It's Daniel L. Jensen's A Fate Ink and Blood. It's just, I don't know, maybe this trope doesn't do it for me, but I'm really kind of like tired of it as of late, of like this she is so strong, she is so competent, but somehow like she's not, no matter how strong, she's not competent and she's not strong compared to like her love interest. Like her love interest is always gonna be like, why did you do this? Like you're so foolish. Like it's like this trope in the romance where it's just like only like the men, like common, not found everywhere, but I'm entrenched in it, where it's like the women can only be smart and capable up to the point where it's like, well, I don't know what to, like, they keep falling into like these obvious like fucking like traps of like incompetency that you're like, but you painted this picture that she's like super badass, she's super, so why is she falling for these idiotic tropes, these idiotic like I can't, it's just idiotic, like it's just like up to this point where it's like she's a warrior, she's smart, and this is like a Norse type Viking whatever show, like interpretation of like this world, but it's just, they always, it's like, you know how on the settings when you play video games and they have like a handicap setting, it's like when she's by herself, there is no handicap, and as soon as like, I don't know if I'm using this like from what my understanding of the handicap thing is, that her handicap setting turns up or whatever. Like it's just it's annoying. It's like her vulnerability, her strength is like dialed all the way, like her vulnerability is turned all the way up and her strength is toned all the way down, including where her smart, her intelligence, her agency is turned all, it's as soon as the man appears in the book. It's just like, and then all these things, and it's not like major problems or like major things that you have. Yeah, I need some serious thinking. It's like simple solutions that is just like, I'm gonna fuck this up. Like it's just, and the fact that the character is always having like this awful power imbalance where they care about her, so much, and it's like this abusive manipulating tactic where I couldn't tell you what was happening, but I obviously used you and manipulated you into thinking that I was this person, and I took your trust, and then later on and then somehow she's like, you did what you had to do. And I'm just like, and that's like through, whether it be TV shows, movies, or books. It's like, why are you so fucking forgiving? Like, am I missing like some deeper point where it's like, like, in true love, it's like, no, 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 no. This person is a manipulative asshole that used you, and that's gonna use you again, and that you're just a pawn. You're just a pawn, as and that, and I just don't know how you could treat somebody like that, like manipulate, coerce, guilt trip, use this power dynamic. But because I helped you and because I saved you from this, you gotta help me out, using that all in their favor so you can stay with them. And then you're like, but I love them. Just no. And then it's like, it's just like with the, before I switch on to like the men's book, it's like, why is it just so easy for these heroines to just be like, it's just the way it is? We're in a fantasy world where anything can happen. She could get hers too. She could be like, I'm not a sex slave. I'm not, like, you can reframe it. You don't have to be like, she's a sex slave narrative. You can be like, she's a sex worker. She has a sex dynasty or own, like, you know, like actual like agency where it's like she don't live in a world where she's like used as a like she can own her own narrative is what I'm saying. And that's a whole dynamic like in the feminist sphere of like, oh, do you own your own narrative when you're a sex worker, or are you just a sex slave to for the patriarchy and like, you know, well, whatever. Not whatever, but I don't have time to talk about that. So, okay, so now we'll talk about the two men featured on this list that I find have problematic themes, but it's centered around like building up like a man's understanding of like a woman's body, or a man's like appreciation for like the delicate sex that is a woman. So let's start with the highly, I didn't think of it as problematic. I thought it was deeply touching. I still think it's deeply touching. I think it's still an excellent story. But now that I have time and I have read different variations of this and like something that's slightly different, I can see that it's like, the framing is just, So Oscar Wilde, it's like, all I can say is like the main point is like using trauma as a lesson. I find that it's kind of like that trope where it's like raped helped me become strong, help him become stronger. Like, I just use rape as because we're talking about sex or whatever, but it's just like this common trope where it's like, because like it's often overlooked that the trauma happened to the victim and not the person who is seeking vengeance. It's like their backstory. Like the trauma was like inherently passed on to them because it was somebody that they care about, and they don't even like actually talk about the victim through the victim's eyes or whatever. It's like, oh, how did you feel about somebody that you care about being raped? Like that should be like the importance. I feel like Oscar Wilde had a lot of I felt like no matter how, it's just feel like it's like trauma Olympics a little bit, because no matter how the framing, it's like it just felt like, but Oscar had it worse, but Oscar had to deal with this. And Oscar had like, it just feel like I feel like it's just like like needlessly competitive between him and his sister and his mom and the women in his lives and the trauma that they faced or whatever. And I also feel that it's like the dynamics of like, oh, that's just the way it is in these cultures, that is just like, you know, sometimes the world is unfair, rather than like actually pushing like a narrative of just saying like, oh, but maybe it can be better, or maybe we don't have to accept it as the way it is, that we can change it. So there's just like, oh no, Oscar is like the ending of Oscar could have been like, and that's how he became an incel. Like, no, like, true. Like, I'm not being hyperbolic, but it's just like he had a lot of on like just deep seated trauma that he didn't deal with, and I felt that it's like also like this, I could see like this as a like not I could see it like as a pipeline for like a precursor to like an incel manifesto, because the framing is almost akin to like why can't she accept a love, like he is not in itself a bad person, he in itself is just an average person, but how he forces himself on the women that he's interested in, no matter even if it's wanted in the beginning, but then the fact that they at some point are like, you know what, we had our thing, let's move on. He always becomes obsessed, and it's always about this narrative in his head where it's like, you know, we're good, like he builds like this alternate reality where like everything, how do I put this, I could see the pipeline, because it's like, oh, at no point does Oscar just feel like, oh, things are supposed to end. Like, people have a choice, like they could recede, like they could just say, okay, I changed my mind, I don't want this, like, no thank you, that you could be a good person but we're not a good fit. Like, at no point, like, he just becomes obsessed with this idea that this person has to be the one. And then even when he accepts it, he's just like, oh, I don't want to live in this world because nobody's gonna like me. Like, he can't accept that his worth isn't like connected with somebody valuing him as like a partner or accepting him as a partner. Like, he's like obsessed with like putting his narrative on them and then internalizing them as a failure on his part, of like, oh, I haven't realized my true potential, and they haven't, like, they won't. And then to the point where it's like he accepts like a tragic end, and I'm just like, why? I feel like there is a person, like, find that, like, get help. Everybody needs help. There's no shame in getting help. Address the issues that you need to address, and find the person that's for you. Like, why? It's just like, it was like the narrative of this story was all almost like feeding in to these toxic desires and these toxic tropes that are common within like the incel group, if you know what I mean. So the next book is Paulo Coelho, 11 Minutes. Again, it's like this oversimplification, over saturation of like, I don't know what it is, but that irks me about these type of books like Juan Diaz, Apollo. It's like they feel like, and I don't know. This is just how I interpret it. I don't know how they meant to interpret it. But it's like they oversimplify the female experience in regards to sexual exploration and like their agency, the power dynamic, cultural norms, and they make it seem as if like because they understand a sliver of like one dynamic of oppression within, or say like just like the inner workings of the female mind or whatever, is that they feel like I get it, and it's like no, I don't think you do. I really don't. I like, girl, my 14-year-old, about 14-year-old self reading this book, I was like, ooh, yes, I got my life in this book. I was like, titillated. Great. But I thought like when he was talking about masturbation, I thought it was very powerful, and it wasn't like made me squirmy or whatever. But I thought that the relationship dynamics was just a little bit skewed towards like the men's point of view. I thought that it was just like almost to the point where it's just kind of like Kate pandering. I really glad that they found each other at the end, but I do feel that she had to give up William, and it's not it's not, and it shouldn't be. Love shouldn't be like, oh, I like who gave up more, but I feel as if like in books of like a romantic nature written by men, the expectation is often for the woman to like sacrifice everything. And I feel like even when they have like the men, they think the men sacrificing everything or a lot, it's like it's not much. It is not much compared to like what the woman is sacrificing. And I feel like I did say it's not a comparison, but there is like a disconnect between like how much like the woman's life is changing like irrevocably compared to how the man's life's changing slightly, and the fact that they're making it seem like, oh, it's like it's like a romantic gesture is troubling. This says a fucking hour and 17 minutes that I talk of my feelings about this fucking topic. Over an hour. But girl, I had to let this go. It was I was like, I can't be reading these fucked up books. Like it's just a string after another, because I took a break after Intense by Corsa, because I was like, fuck me if I read another fucking book that deals with this shit, with just that. And then of course Crucial's Dart, and I was like, nope, no, I have to talk about it. I can't. I will and I know I didn't really dive deep into like any other like do a deep dive, because it's just like an overview of like, you know, finding out like what it is that, because it's like, damn, I don't know, if you find that, share your opinions about, if you even listen to this, if you could stomach this for an hour and 19 minutes. I don't blame you if you don't. I believe in choices. The freedom of choices, I should say. Well, not every choice should be made, as evident in this video. But feel free to just talk about any problematic And that's like, well, I would prefer if you gave people the courtesy of saying that, oh yeah, like if you're gonna go into explicit detail, like just give them a warning about what exactly is the problematic detail that you're describing. Having said that, I'm just gonna teeter out with who should be the thought police. I don't know. I wouldn't say I don't want there to be a thought police. Honestly, I want people to have the freedom to express their thoughts and I want people to have the freedom to challenge them on these thoughts or whatever. I am not bounded by no constraints by say. I believe, like for myself, that there should be a line, like, not in a thought police, but like in a depiction of certain things, that there should be a line, like in the depiction of what things should be allowed to be depicted and such, but that depends on like just society norms, like laws, like time period, like so many an amalgamation of things that is just very hard to just say, oh, it's just this. So yeah, that's my foray. I don't know. Foray. I don't know. I'm noticing that my word bank is not readily accessible as it used to be. And I need to correct that pronto. My word, I feel like it's grown, not exponentially as I need to have it grown exponentially. Like, yeah, I need to kick it up a notch, my word bank. And I actually need to practice enunciation, proper dictation and enunciation. Okay, bye.